एआई के आने की वजह से हमने देखा था कि बजाज फाइनेंस ने बोला था अभी पीछे कि उनका अगले 2 साल ये आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की एडॉप्शन की वजह से बहुत फायदा होने वाला है। उनकी तो लोन बुक में करीब 10% तो इस बार आप सुनते होंगे कि टेलीफोन पर जो कॉल्स आती हैं बजाज फाइनेंस की तरफ से कि लोन ले लीजिए या पर्सनल लोन ले लीजिए, वो सभी कॉल्स को उन्होंने धीरे-धीरे एआई पर शिफ्ट करना शुरू कर दिया। तो कुछ लोग तो पहचान भी नहीं पाते कि ये एआई के थ्रू जनरेटेड एक एजेंट बोल रहा है या ये एक नेचुरल इंसान बोल रहा है। तो ये एक बहुत अच्छी चीज है जो कि अब चेंज हुई है हमारे यहाँ पर एआई के एडॉप्शन की वजह से। लेकिन इसके कुछ शॉर्टकमिंग्स भी हो सकती हैं, इसके कुछ नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट भी हो सकते हैं। तो उन सभी मुद्दों पर बात होगी। तो हमने सोचा कि आज हम एक इतने बड़े बैंकर से बात करते हैं, एक्स बैंकर से, और जो एआई पर काफी मेहनत कर रहे हैं। हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं मिस्टर शांतनु सेनगुप्ता। ही इज बोर्ड लीडर एंड स्ट्रेटेजिक एडवाइजर, एंड especially he is the former MD, former managing director at Wells Fargo Bank. It's a renowned international bank. Sir, thank you for in my show, and thank you so much for joining in. Sir, जिस तरह से हमने देखा कि इंडिया में एडॉप्शन आ रहा है एआई को लेकर, हाउ डू यू सी कि सर ये कितना, मतलब इसके पॉजिटिव्स और इसके नेगेटिव्स क्या हैं फॉर इंडियन बीएफएसआई सेक्टर?
Yeah, thank you, Mittalji, first of all, for having me on your show.
My pleasure.
Nowadays, of course, AI is dominating all discussions, right? It is a way of life. So you mentioned about the banking and finance sector, right? So I'll focus specifically on that. So if we look at AI and its, sort of use cases, I think it's no longer experimental. अगर हम बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज देखें तो क्रेडिट स्कोरिंग में, रिस्क मॉडलिंग, कस्टमर एंगेजमेंट में देयर इज already extensive deployment of AI. There are some emerging use cases also coming up. For example, agentic cyber risk management, liquidity and treasury management, risk dashboards, which obviously in banking and finance is critical. But as you mentioned, there are quite a few risks associated with, AI. So it is important to sort of understand those risks, manage those risks, and responsibly deploy AI, because otherwise it can have serious consequences. Um, we are all aware of bias, lack of explainability, data privacy risks, right? So RBI has also come out with a report which is called the Free AI Report, the framework for the responsible and ethical enablement of AI in financial services, especially banking. So this is a great framework. The report was released in August of last year, 2025. And so they are making it mandatory that banks and financial institutions focus on trust, explainability, accountability, resilience, etc. So I think we have to keep these guardrails in mind before deploying AI at scale.
Exactly, sir. But sir, there are some fears also. Like we have seen that all the IT professionals are fearing that they'll lose their jobs. But do you think that this kind of fear may prevail in the financial sectors also? Because, I have said that Bajaj Finance has adopted a good amount of AI in their business, and they said that they will adopt more than 800 AI agents in next 2 years. So do you think there are certain kind of jobs those are going to be impacted by the implementation of AI in the financial sector also?
Thank you. That's a great question. So again, I'll draw a little bit of an inspiration from the RBI AI framework, right? Free AI framework, right? So I think one of the things we have to keep in mind is basically that that responsible AI deployment means that human in the loop, or at the end of the day, human judgment must prevail, right? So that's really the background to answering your question. Yes, the nature of banking, the nature of workflows is going to change, in a revolutionary manner, as AI becomes more and more embedded into the workflows, right? I gave some of the use cases which are currently there. There are others which are emerging. So there are certain jobs, especially at the entry level, which will certainly be at risk. Having said that, there are obviously new avenues and new jobs that will get created. So, for example, the data related work, right? Because whatever you feed into AI, into the model, it's garbage in, garbage out. So it's important that the data has to be, sort of clean. So obviously there will be a lot of opportunities for people who are sort of specializing in data, certainly data scientists, but even more at the basic level. So those jobs will emerge. I think, as I mentioned, since human judgment is going to be supreme, and the credit decisions at the end of the day, whilst the recommendations may be made by AI or the machines, or maybe even the risk or the fraud alerts may come in by, from the AI algorithm or the models which you have. But obviously, there will have to be humans who take the final call whether to accept that alert, whether that alert is a false positive, or does it really make sense. So, to answer your question very briefly in one line, I think obviously there will be certain jobs which will be at risk, but then there will be other categories of jobs that will emerge. And I think clearly from people entering the job market, it is important to reskill or upskill themselves in the new requirements of the new economy, AI powered economy.
Hmm. So you have been veteran in banking sector. So I just want to know कि कितना खर्चा companies को करना पड़ेगा, for example banks को करना पड़ेगा to implement AI in their businesses, and what is going to be the impact of this AI spending on their margins, because we have seen all the Indian banks are somewhere hovering in the range of say 3 to 4% in terms of net interest margins. So do you think this net interest margin will go on the will go upside, or maybe it may be कि आप इनिशियली जब आप इतना खर्चा करते हो तो आपके मार्जिन्स पर थोड़ा सा इम्पैक्ट आ सकता है इनिशियली. सो व्हाट क्या होने वाला है मार्जिन्स के तौर पर?
Yeah, no, so that's a good question, and something we should clearly think through. So, obviously, as you mentioned, AI requires significant investments, right? Having said that, obviously, the main use case, which I think no one has a grudge against, is the fact that AI certainly improves productivity and efficiency. So in the short term, as you rightly said, obviously there would be the cost of investment, which can impact the banking and financial services sector, profitability to some extent. I expect that to be marginal. But in the long run, given the productivity and efficiency gains, cost savings will accrue, and this will more than offset, the expenditure on AI. I also want to make one observation, especially in the Indian context. So, if you look at UPI, for example, right, it's a digital public infrastructure, right? And
Right.
banks as well as fintechs have been innovating on top of that digital public infrastructure, right? So we recently had the Global AI Impact Summit in Delhi, and obviously the government is really focused on building a digital or an AI infrastructure, right? On top of which sort of banks and fintechs can innovate, because clearly one of the goals of the government, and rightly so, is to basically democratize AI. So when we are looking at the financial services sector, the smaller banks, the smaller NBFCs, and the fintechs may not really have the ability to make those kind of investment. But if you have that infrastructure in place, and I mentioned about the RBI free AI report, they are also talking in terms of having an India-specific financial sector model, right? So those, infrastructure will certainly help even the smaller banks, smaller NBFCs, and indeed the fintechs from sort of making full use of the AI stack and doing their innovations on top of that in a very cost effective manner. Otherwise, for example, a lot of the financial services sector would get excluded from the AI revolution.
Great, sir. So it's going to impact our financial industry in the positive manner, and then that's a fantastic thing that you just shared with us. And definitely, we have seen some NBFCs and some fintech companies; those are adopting in a big way, and then they are just getting good margins, and that's why the market is saluting their stock price as well, and they are just skyrocketing, and that's a positive thing in the markets as well. And we have seen the kind of negative atmosphere was there for the IT company in last 15, 20 odd days, and then we have seen that all the IT companies in the entire world have lost somewhere around 10 trillion kind of net worth in their stock price. And that's the irony, but again, sir, that's a fantastic discussion with you, and thank you so much for joining in. And we'll keep engaging you for for more time to discuss on these issues, because this is a stock market time. So thank you so much for joining in, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure.